Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Christmas universe for this year. Obviously, continuing our 2023 Christmas universe coverage by bringing you the second of our episodes, where we're going to be taking a look at the Will Ferrell, a chance to revisit the Will Ferrell movie Elf, probably considered one of the best Christmas movies of all time, and this movie gets a reshown a load of times on streaming services. A lot of people love this movie, especially on Sky Cinema. It's been obviously it's going to be available with Sky Cinema when the Christmas collection comes out, which should be out within the next week or so. So definitely keep an eye out, and we'll definitely be talking about that Christmas collection in the next few days. So definitely make sure to subscribe, as we will be sharing more details of what other movies are going to be in that collection. But we know that Elf and The Polar Express are going to be two of the movies we can expect in that collection. But anyway, we're going to focus on Elf because, of course, Elf is the incredible movie, a movie that just never gets so much love at this time of the year, obviously, because it's a fantastic movie. Will Ferrell does a fantastic job playing Elf, and she's incredible. I mean, he's incredible, should I say, as Elf, and we all love him, don't we? I mean, this movie is one of probably, like I said, one of the best Christmas movies that gets viewed every year, and it never fails to disappoint at this time of the year. It never does. So, yeah, let's begin with a chance to recap this movie, Elf. And I mean, the movie it speaks for itself, doesn't it? The fact that you have this whole story of, like, obviously Santa going to a sort of a nursing, I guess you could say, like a sort of a department where babies haven't got their mothers because obviously their mothers wanted to adopt, or maybe parents want to adopt their child. So it's kind of an adoption sort of area, home, where Santa is essentially visits that area, and then obviously that baby, and then of course Buddy, as a Buddy the elf being the baby, ends up obviously going into Santa's sack. He ends up living in the North Pole, and of course we have that whole and we basically just get to know the fact that Santa basically chose to raise him by using one of the elves to raise him in the North Pole. And over the years, he would get bigger and bigger to the point where he would end up trying to build toys, and it became more and more clear that he basically couldn't fit in an elf's world because, well, all the other elves realized that, yeah, Buddy was struggling to cope with elf life essentially, and it became more and more apparent as he grew up that, yeah, things were getting tougher, and he was finding it difficult to sort of keep up with the rota that elves could keep up to, and because of that, it became more and more. And then obviously with the discovery of the fact that, they found out the identities of his real parents, and eventually he began this whole adventure to New York, which finally, yeah, the fact that he finally went to the Big Apple, which is the, always magical at this time of the year, especially with the giant Christmas tree. As especially if anybody has been to New York at Christmas, you'll know what I'm talking about, like the big Christmas tree, the ice rink, the fact the Empire State Building with that obviously is looming in the background of the Christmas tree just never gets old, and the fact that, you have, like, obviously these Santas walking around, like, doing charity donations, because obviously that's the thing in New York. They have all these different charities that, wander the streets to get, like, donations, and then obviously the stores in New York tend to light up. Well, they tend to promote products for Christmas, of course. They have, like, these sort of mini markets within these town halls that they have, and it's just, yeah, and you get to see some of that in this movie, like some of the atmosphere that Christmas in New York is like, essentially, even though It does. It obviously, I would imagine most of the stuff in this film has changed in recent years because obviously this is a movie that came out in 2003. So you can imagine that most of the stuff we see in terms of New York scenes, most of it has changed. Well, some of it is still the same, but there has been some changes over time because obviously this is we're talking early noughties here, this movie, so a lot of things have probably changed since the early noughties, in terms of the atmosphere of New York, and especially at Christmas, because obviously we've had a pandemic since this movie, and well, after this movie, we've had different ways of life since the pandemic. So of course, Christmases have changed since the pandemic. So you can imagine that Elf, some of the things that Elf shows, the movie shows, is probably either out of date or probably just doesn't fit in with the times now, does it? But it still gets shown regardless of whether it fits in or not. But it's still a classic regardless. But honestly, I just love this movie. I mean, Elf is just great. Will Ferrell is so funny as Elf. Like some of the scenes he's done are just so funny. The way he introduces himself to people and just he goes into depth with the character. It just shows you how much fun he had making this film, even though Will Ferrell has been against the idea of a sequel, even though I would love to see a sequel for Elf, but I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, I would love that. I would love to see an Elf sequel, but Will Ferrell's been against the whole idea of like Elf 2, which I can understand because he wants to do other projects, and also because he's basically done loads of movies since then. Like Daddy's Home 2 was his next Christmas film after Elf, and he still was he basically had that, he kind of did sort of behave similarly to Elf in that movie as well. Even though he obviously was a completely different character, but he did have that elements of Elf in his performance in Daddy's Home 2. But either way, I love Elf. I love this movie. It's been a movie that I enjoy, and I continue to enjoy it this time of the year. I mean, I've got it on DVD for a while now, and yeah, I have obviously I'm going to be watching this movie over Christmas. Of course I am. I mean, in the lead up to Christmas, of course I'm going to be watching the movie, and I'm sure many of you will be. Especially when it comes to streaming services as well. Elf is just a classic movie. I'm in love with it, and I'm sure you guys are in love with it as well. I want to know in the comment section below, like what is your favorite moment in Elf if you have seen this movie? But I'm sure most of you will be able to stream this movie, hopefully on Sky Cinema in the next week or so. But if you do fancy want to buy the DVD release or the Blu-ray, there'll be a link in the description for those who want to get the DVD or Blu-ray release. If you want to have a copy that you can have forever and be able to rewatch it every Christmas, then you can go down that path if you want to. So then that way you'll be able to get a physical copy of the actual movie to celebrate Elf, of course. And yeah, and of course there's digital releases of Elf as well that you can get your hands on, because obviously Elf is a great movie. Obviously a lot of people are going to have it. So yeah, really, that is essentially my thoughts on Elf, the movie that continues to, like I said, continues to blow us away every Christmas, and most of us love it. We love it because it is a Christmas film that's worth loving pretty much. And I'm sure many of you will continue to love it to this very day. So yes, I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Elf, and I'm going to be doing a review soon of Last Christmas, as well as Disney's The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, the one of the recent Christmas movies from Disney. So we'll have a chance to revisit the Nutcracker movie that they released back in, I believe it was 2018. Yeah, I think it was 2018. Yeah. And they've obviously BBC has had access to this movie recently, and they're obviously going to be resharing it again for Christmas 2023, which is going to be great to see that on BBC channels again. But with that said, thanks for watching, and I will catch you all in my review for the Disney's The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, as well as obviously Last Christmas and all the other coverage we're going to be doing in the Christmas universe. So see you then.